Thomas Frank is settling into life at Tottenham Hotspur. He's made a few signings to improve this Spurs squad so far, and after the groundwork that was laid by former manager Ange Postecoglou after winning the Europa League, Thomas Frank has shown that he is the right manager to take charge of Spurs this season. And on the latest episode of Monday Night Football, both Jamie Carragher and Carra Nev sort of deep dived into how Thomas Frank will set up his Tottenham Hotspur side this season, all in different ways how they'll set up this side. So today on the talkSPORT YouTube channel, I'm going to be asking the question, are Carra Nev and Jamie Carragher right about Thomas Frank's Tottenham Hotspur? But before we go any further, if you are new to the channel, then leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also let me know in the comments down below. Are Carra and Nev right? So yes, we have the first Monday Night Football of the season, and Carra and Nev, we're looking at Thomas Frank's Tottenham Hotspur side because at the moment he's had, well, a whole pre-season playing a variety of different sides: Reading, Luton, Wycombe, Arsenal, Newcastle and Bayern Munich. But in competitive senses, he has played 2 games. He had PSG in the Super Cup, which we unfortunately lost, but it was a draw in normal time, and Burnley in the Premier League, which we won 3-0 in Thomas Frank's first Premier League game for Spurs. 2 very different oppositions and, you know, tactical setups by Thomas Frank. And I'll be honest, after what I was saying after, you know, Ange Postecoglou was sacked, and when I did a video when Thomas Frank was announced about how he would set up, I was saying a lot of what Carragher and Neville go on to say in these clips, because these clips are very vital in showing how adaptive and how different Thomas Frank will line up this Spurs side, because it's going to be different for each opposition, and especially ahead of a game like we have at the weekend against Manchester City, where we're probably going to see a different style, a different setup, a different formation. It's really interesting for myself and you Spurs fans and any football fans watching this to understand what Thomas Frank is looking to do at Spurs for this season and beyond, in the Champions League and beyond, you know, all the different cup competitions that we want to compete in. So I just thought I would, you know, there was 2 main clips that Sky posted around Thomas Frank's tactical setup compared to, you know, what he did in PSG and also against Burnley, and also how the goals in Burnley sum up Thomas Frank's style. So roll the clips. Before I show you Carragher and Neville talking about Thomas the Frank engine, a large majority of you watching this right now are not subscribed to the talkSPORT YouTube channel. What are you doing? We've got a massive fixture at the weekend against Manchester City, so now is better than ever to get down below, like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let me know in the comments down below what your favourite Spurs player is at the moment. It's a monumental season. I'm closing in on 10,000 subs and want you to join me on this Tottenham Hotspur journey. And also, another little question, I'm thinking of live streaming Spurs versus Man City. So would you want that? If you want that, again, like and let me know in the comments down below. But enough of me waffling on, that's gone on for too long. Let's roll these clips.
He's already in 2 games set up with different systems and different ways of playing. And if you just look at the system that they played against Paris Saint-Germain in the Super Cup final, and he went in with a back 3, a back 5, so a 5-3-2 if you like. And what we've got to remember is we've had Thomas Frank on this floor talking us through what he did with Brentford and why he would change to a back 3 or a back 5 against certain opposition. And it is to do with the fact when you come up against an opposition who he thinks is superior to them. Well, PSG are the best team in Wales football right now. So he went in with his back 5. Danso, who he actually had taken not just long throw-ins on the right, but actually on the left-hand side. So set pieces were a big part of the game. They scored 2 from it, long throws as well. Come into midfield as well, had the wing-backs, the midfield here as well. Really tight, really compact. It was just interesting as well, even though Solanke's maybe not fully fit, even Kudus, even though he's a wide player, and Richarlison at times can be central and to the left, they actually went through the middle and they made it really difficult for PSG on the night. And Luis Enrique, I think, was gracious enough to say they probably deserved to win the game. But it was a really direct performance. As I said, long throw, set pieces, but you've got a complete contrast at the weekend. Burnley, a promoted team. So what does Thomas Frank do? We look at the team now. he goes to a back four. Again, very reminiscent of how he would be at Burnley. So he plays the back four, he goes with an extra attacking player in there. Younger players in the midfield made changes in there as well. And obviously Johnson joins the front players there. But what was really interesting was Vicario and how he approached both games. And it just gives you an idea that it wasn't just a system change, it was a style change in both games. So we just look at the pass map of the goalkeeper in the PSG game and the Burnley game. So
PSG on the left.
Yes, PSG here. And listen, we can see it all there, self-explanatory, but percentage of passes long, 94% went long. They were not going to play into the press, let Dembele get after them and maybe lose the ball around the edge of the box.
The only thing I would say, Jamie, there's a lot of red on that left-hand side, unsuccessful passes.
Yeah, well, that's going to happen a lot when you go long. You're not going to win the first header. But Burnley, percentage of passes long, 15%. And actually, I watched the game on Game of the Day on Saturday night. A lot of these passes that were long were actually passes, not just long balls, a lot of balls into Richarlison. But if anyone hasn't seen both games, or maybe didn't see the Burnley games, it wasn't live on TV, Burnley didn't sit off and let Tottenham just play. They pressed. They were man-to-man when the goalkeeper had the ball, whether it was on goal kicks or the ball was in the goalkeeper's hand. So they really played from the back and invited the pressure on. So we're just going to look at a couple of the goals. And as I said, it's just fascinating because we think a lot about managers. They'll say, we might change the system, but the style doesn't change. We've seen a complete style change here, really, in 2 games. Now, when I think about the goalkeeper, just look at him rolling his foot on the ball. Now, that is Van de Ven. Now, this is actually the 3rd goal. But when you split centre-backs that wide, he's in a left-back position, Van de Ven. Here's Romero. That's because you want your goalkeeper to get involved, almost like a 3rd centre-back. That's something you see with sort of the best passing teams in world football. The goalkeeper becomes an outfield player. We saw him midweek just smashing it long constantly. When your centre-backs split that far apart, your goalkeeper has to be coming between them because it's too far to make passes. So we just see the goalkeeper now rolling his foot on the ball, enticing the press from Burnley. And again, you've seen one contrast midweek, and this is almost like a completely different team. They go and press, and this happens so often in the game because Burnley were going man-to-man with the press. The ball was into Richarlison. He was causing real problems for the opposition, Sarr, and then Johnson. So when you think about a footballing goal from one end of the pitch to the other, and the goalkeeper baiting the press, trying to bring the opposition onto them, that just shows the contrasting styles that we saw from midweek and that we saw at the weekend.
So that was the 3rd.
Yes.
Second was a bit special, wasn't it?
It was, and I mean, he said in his interview after the game, Thomas Frank, that the analyst had told him everybody had touched the ball in this. So we're just going to actually, every time one of the players touches the ball, the name will appear here on the far side. But it was, and again, Porro's on the ball here. Look how wide Spence is. So this is a really open, expansive team in this game. So Tottenham fans worrying, maybe thinking, is Thomas Frank, what type of manager is he? Is he going to play the football Tottenham supporters want to see? Well, he certainly did in this game. But there's no doubt about it. When needs must, he will change. And
adaptability,
he will
as he's always talked about.
To the opposition. And we've got to keep in mind who they play at the weekend. Manchester City.
How about this for a final touch coming up, though?
Yeah, this is, I mean, listen, he's already been like a little bit...
We're up to 10, aren't we? We're up to 10 names.
Are we up to 10?
The one player who hasn't touched it.
Yes, we know who that is. Brilliant skill.
So yeah, I loved watching this analysis from Monday Night Football, and it was really, really intriguing what Carragher had to say, mainly because he was the one deep diving into this. And it basically says, against PSG, we set up with that back three and a very flat midfield who were looking to break up and counter-attack. Vicario was used differently as well. He was looking to play it long. We were using the set pieces and Kevin Danzo's throw-in. So this was very vital to the game plan. And it worked to an extent because we went 2-0 up. We held, the European champions for a large majority for about, 85 minutes before we realised that we are a bit inexperienced compared to them. And the game ended 2-2 and we unfortunately lost on penalties, but that's a lottery. Thomas Frank will set up a lot like this season. He will set up like this, I can imagine, Anfield away, the Emirates away, Old Trafford away, bigger teams and bigger tests. But when it comes to maybe a team like, say, Burnley, who, are going to be a trickier test in another sense, low block, I'm thinking, you know, harder to actually break them down. Then Thomas Frank is going to pivot. He's going to use that back four, the 4-2-3-1. And what that means is, like what he showed Carragher on these graphics, is that we used Vicario again quite differently. He was maybe used in a sort of centre-back role, the way he would come into the midfield, and he was playing more shorter passes. So this is what I've been arguing for a long, long time, because when we inevitably sacked Ange Postecoglou, a lot of people were upset, but I could understand it. What we were looking for was Ange Postecoglou was a great attacking manager. I can't argue with that. The goals we scored were fantastic, but our defence was shocking. You know, our fullbacks weren't defending effectively, our line was too high, our midfield would get bypassed. What Thomas Frank was going to bring in, and it was obvious he was going to bring in, and even this season, if we finish wherever we finish, he will show a versatility and he will adapt to different game states and different games before they happen, you know, during the game and before in his preparation. And he is willing to take on new challenges and new opponents, and he will go into each game and have a plan A, B, C, D, depending on what is happening. And we saw it in, you know, the Burnley game. He played a whole different midfield. He played Gray and Bergvall. We needed passing and passers. And when we were playing Bayern, we had Palhinha and Bentancur and Sarr more deeper to sort of break up the play and then counter-attack. And that's why a lot of the signings that Thomas Frank and Tottenham are making this summer are ones that we didn't have and that we will need for these different game states. Look at João Palhinha, for example. He's going to be so important in winning duels. So in those games where we maybe play a back three and we are a bit defensive, we will then have João Palhinha to break up the play and win the tackles. Mohamed Kudus, I mean, he's pretty much perfect in every game state, but when we were playing teams last year and they had a low block and we needed a dribbler who could really break down a team, then you have Mohamed Kudus. And, you know, he's got his assists, I should say, for Richarlison at the weekend was a perfect example of that. You know, cheeky little dribbles where you're going to turn inside of a player. And Brennan Johnson then will be the pacey winger who will then, you know, look to be the goal scorer for the team. So I just like the idea of how Thomas Frank is using this and being adaptive for these different game states, which we didn't see under Ange Postecoglou. And it's just really important. I think a modern manager needs to be like this. And even if you look at the stats, you know, Burnley had a lot of shots, but with our possession, we had more of the ball compared to against PSG, who had a lot of the ball compared to us. So you can see that Thomas Frank is pivoting and changing his style depending on the opposition. And as I say, at the weekend against Manchester City, I expect the same. Then Bournemouth, Wolves, West Ham, whoever we play, it'll be pivoting, because it needs to be like that. You just can't play the same way and expect, you know, I think there's a saying that a sign of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting the same results. It's just not going to happen. And I think Carragher and Neville highlighted this perfectly on Monday Night Football to show that Tottenham are trying to move forward with Thomas Frank. And, you know, in the last couple of weeks, I've seen people, you know, change their predictions of Tottenham. I mean, I've said about how I think we could finish between 6th and 8th, and maybe with a few more signings, 5th, depending on what happens to the teams in and around us. But I'm more confident going into games that we're going to just be a bit different mentally and not be as just risky in certain areas. I mean, I just like the fact that, and Carragher says it as well, we're just more direct. You know, straight away, it was Porro launching a chance into the box, like how Brentford did. I think there was a thing last year with Brentford where in 3 games in a row, they scored within the first minute. And they, funny enough, did it against Spurs. I think we were the middle game. So it goes to show that Thomas Frank is being direct, but more effectively direct. But if it's not on, you then recycle the ball instead of the way that Ange Postecoglou was, which was gung-ho, and it just didn't work out. But I will say, I have seen a few Spurs fans who are actually not too happy with what they've seen from Thomas Frank.
Good morning, John, the Spurs fan. John, are you still Spursy?
Well, we weren't, and then Frank's ruined the club. All the hard work for 2 years out the window in one match, playing 5 at the back. It's pathetic. We scored 2 goals from set pieces, which is the kind of thing Bolton or Sunderland would do, and we created nothing from open play. There was no threat the whole game, and then everything's going okay. He brings on Matthias Tell, whose sole contribution to the game was to give away fouls in key areas, lose the ball, and miss a penalty, when Johnson, who is the reason we're in the final, He's sat on the bench. He scored 19 goals last season, and with his pace in the last 20 minutes would have at least given us the outball. I mean, I don't understand what Solanke's dared to do apart from run around and look busy, but the substitutions were amateurish, and there was just no threat at all the whole game.
So he's ruined the club because of one game.
Well, you look at what we're doing, playing 5 at the back. If we're going to sit back the whole of this season and play like that, we've got a great team going forward, and he had 2 people on up front. He had Kudos and Richarlison, and Richarlison was brilliant for most of the game. But we're obviously going to tire because of the work rate that we're going to have to do in. But just telling the team to sit back for the last 20 minutes to defend the penalty area. Anybody could tell you that you can't sit back and allow a team like PSG to have the ball and just say, here you go, try your best for 20 minutes.
John,
a tired Spurs team, it's just never going to work.
John, we hear you loud and clear. Stay with us on the line because Mick, the Spurs fan, is with us now. Mick, do you agree with John?
Well, I don't agree with the Thomas Frank comment. He's been there 2 minutes. We looked a lot better than we did last year. And he just said, why is he bringing on subs? When we knew we was going to be tired. That's the reason he made the subs.
John, what do you think about that? He's not had enough time. He was winning the game last night with 85 minutes on the clock.
It was 2 set pieces. There was nothing created from open play at all. And yes, we were winning the game. He brought on the subs, but he brought on the wrong subs. Like Solanke's never going to score. He doesn't score. And Tell, like, why bring on Tell when you've got Johnson? I mean, I don't even know why we brought Tell back. He thinks he's Ronaldo, and he's not. He's barely even Andros Townsend.
Oh, don't have a go at Andros Townsend.
I don't want to go. It's like we've got Timu Conte. It's like defensive drab football, and you just think, oh, another season of this, and we're on a high. And we had a chance to do it, and all he had to do was not tell the team to sit back in the penalty area for 10, 15 minutes. And it was obvious. Every Spurs fan could tell as soon as he started doing that, PSG were going to win. Like, if you go to any Spurs fans group chat, I imagine most of them realised that's it, we're done now.
Mick, was your group chat saying that?
Listen, if you're going on Spurs fans off the internet, then you've got no chance. Just go to people that watch the games and go and support the club. The reason I phoned up for was the cheek of the Man United fan having a pop at it. But we beat the dog and duck.
We agree on that, Mick.
Yeah, start your own group chat. Listen, Mick, John, thank you so much for your calls this morning.
And I have to totally disagree with this. I think it's absolutely nuts that people think Thomas Frank is a low level. I feel like he was due this step up. He was due to prove himself. And he'll have challenges this year. You know, at the end of the day, we played Burnley and won, and Burnley probably will be one of the worst teams in the Premier League this year. And we played PSG, which we ultimately lost. But Frank's learning. He's seeing what's working. With a few more signings, I expect this Tottenham side to explode under Thomas Frank. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you make of Thomas Frank's start to life at Tottenham? What are your predictions for the season? Are you confident, or are you a bit, on the fence? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, leave your like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let me know if you want me to do a live stream for Spurs City, because I am keen if there is an appetite for it. And until next time, guys, up the Spurs. I'll see you guys pretty soon. Bye.